G'day, Noob Spearo listeners. We thought this week we'd give you a little bit of an idea of what's been happening in the world of Noob Spearo. Well, it turns out there's a few more people listening this week, so absolutely.
Believe it.
I know, I can't believe it either.
Crazy.
We're absolutely stoked. The dizzying heights of
Podcast superstardom.
It's out of control.
So now, thanks guys. We cracked the 3,000 download mark. It seems like a lot of you guys are liking and sharing our stuff, so it's doing us favours. Also, we had Coxie from the ADF write a cracker review for us on iTunes. He says, literally a lifesaver, 5 stars. He says, been an avid podcast listener for nearly a decade, and this is my first review. This podcast is laid back, informative, and absolutely essential for the new Spearo. Great list of domestic and international guests. The most dangerous time for a Spearo is in those first few months, and it's good to know there is an easily accessible resource
Spit it out.
that I can point my mates to when they're starting out. Cheers, Shrek and Turbo. So thank you, Coxie. That's
Coxie ADF. Thanks, mate. That's fantastic. And who was the other one? This great couple ... of blokes. I appreciate that.
Old days are dark. Good on you, buddy.
No, it's Dazzadar.
Dazzadar. So thanks, guys. And we've also received quite a few private messages from other people supporting us on Facebook and emails and stuff. So thanks, guys. Thanks for letting us know we're doing a good job.
And if you do know somebody out there who you think would be a fantastic interview, has tons of knowledge, or is just a great storyteller, just get on our Facebook and dob them in, and we'll go about stalking them, and we'll try and get them on the show.
Yeah, for sure. And just a couple of updates, guys. Look, we're going to unroll a new website theme in the next few weeks, so look out for that. And we're going to try and continue releasing an episode every 3 weeks. It's a reasonable time frame for us, otherwise we get a bit snowed under. So, yeah, look forward to some great guests that are coming on the show soon, and this episode in particular with Doug Peterson.
Woo! Doug Peterson, our first doctor and dentist.
Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the Noob Spearo podcast, where we interview experts, authorities and characters on all things spearfishing. Come and join us after the show at noobspearo.com, the online spearfishing community helping you to become a better Spearo. Here are your hosts for the show, Shrek and Turbo.
G'day, Noob Spearo community. Today we have someone a little different. Doug Peterson is a dentist, author, family man and Spearo who spent lots of his time diving in and around Rhode Island. However, now he resides in the spearfishing paradise of New Jersey. Welcome to the Noob Spearo podcast, Doug Peterson.
I really like that introduction. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Especially the paradise of New Jersey, right? We're going to learn a lot about that today, I think.
Cool. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing about some of the diving conditions you have over there. It sounds absolutely atrocious. But before we go there, could you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started spearfishing?
Sure. I like you said, I started spearfishing in Rhode Island, which is a kind of a really nice place because it's obviously an island, and it has a lot of access to water and very rocky structure, and kind of a really nice area for habitat for fish to hang out, and very close to the shore, so you don't have to travel too far. But I got started into spearfishing probably over 10 years ago. I actually took a SCUBA certification course, which I would definitely highly recommend to anybody getting into spearfishing. Are you guys SCUBA certified also?
Yeah, I sort of started similar to you, Doug. I got started scuba diving, and then sort of I got more interested in freediving, and I got the chance to use a Hawaiian sling. So I think perhaps something similar to you.
Yeah, you know, and I took that course and found some friends who were teaching the course. One in particular, one of the mentors that I have, his name was Mike, and he was one of the instructors. Yeah, I have to say that after I took the scuba certification course, I don't think I've put on a scuba tank since I took that course, because he showed me spearfishing and introduced me to that world, and it was just something that was very attractive to me. And a lot of the things that you learn in the scuba certification course, like equalizing and the depths and all the different things just about going in the water in general and being comfortable in that environment and clearing your mask and all the things that are critical to learning from an instructor, from a teacher,
Yep.
were very helpful in going into freediving also.
So when you actually gave up the tanks and you got into spearfishing, Doug, Rhode Island.
Wasn't like a paradise. It you know, obviously you pick your days when you're able to go, but
So,
the water was relatively clear in the summer times when I used to go spearfishing. Um, but visibility, I would say probably maybe 20 feet. But that doesn't sound like much. But in the on the east coast of the United States, especially up in northeast coast, visibility isn't the best year round. So it's something that we really have to pick our days. I don't know if that's what you mean when you ask me what was the conditions like,
Yeah,
or
absolutely. The sea conditions, and it's pretty cold water up there. I'm guessing anywhere from 0 to 20 degrees, maybe Celsius.
right.
sorry,
Yeah,
mate.
Celsius.
You guys work in Fahrenheit. Give us your Fahrenheit figures if you like.
Yeah, they're probably in the 60s Fahrenheit. That's probably average, and in the summertime gets into the 70s, probably very low 70s. But across the board, you're wearing a 5 millimeter wetsuit,
Oh, wow.
and you're head to toe covered in wetsuit material, boots and gloves and hoods, and everything. So it's not really it's not really freeing, so to speak. You really, sometimes that's a confinement to diving itself, is just the comfort of your wetsuit.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about conditions. What was some of the obstacles you had, I guess, starting out?
When I was first starting out, I took that scuba certification course. I had a wetsuit that was like, for scuba diving, really. It wasn't a free diving suit. So um, that's one thing that I would say, that initially I just I just could have, whatever I could afford, I got. So there was something that, you're asking me before how I got into this. My friend Mike, who was teaching me, he actually needed some dental work on his mouth, so he needed all his wisdom teeth pulled out. So I said to him, "Look, I'll help you out, but I need a wetsuit and fins and a snorkel and a spear gun." So he said, "No problem." And so we found a kind of a happy barter there,
Oh, nice.
and I actually helped him out with some of the dental needs that he had, and he gave me all the startup equipment that I needed to jump in the water, which was great for me, because it's, you're talking probably about I don't know, maybe about $600 or $800 worth of
Yeah.
equipment
Yeah.
that you need just to get started, and it's another thing that's something to consider when you're going scuba or free diving, spearfishing. See, it's a little bit of an investment to start.
Yeah.
Doug, I'm still just wearing a Speedo and a pole spear, so I only need about sort of $60 to get me started over here.
What kind of water temperatures do you guys have then?
Oh, it's very warm. It's got to be warm for me, Doug.
Yeah.
Especially in my Speedo, if you know what I mean.
I think we probably our water temperatures probably start mid 70s on like mid Queensland coast, the Fahrenheit, and it goes up from there. I think that's from we don't really talk in Fahrenheit down here. We talk in Celsius, so we kind of I'm trying to translate here for Turbo Doug.
I don't know, what's it, about 26 degrees here?
Yeah, in summer we'll have anything from sort of 24 to 27 degrees where we are.
Celsius, yeah.
Celsius, and then but in winter it'll get down to 17 to 20 around, but normally hovers still around the 20 mark in winter.
That's really nice, and it makes me quite jealous just to hear you guys and see some of the pictures you guys have on your Facebook page, just to kind of see what conditions you guys have, because like you were saying, the paradise of New Jersey, where I am now, is it's just something that is a constant plague for me, to just have the desire to go spearfishing as much as I want to do it, but just being handcuffed and not being able to do it is
Tough.
so yeah, it's not easy.
So
And believe me, I try to push the conditions as much as I can. Sometimes I go and plan to go, and get all set up, and I get in the water, and I just have to turn around and come right back, just because I can't even see anything.
Yeah.
So you're predominantly shore diving, are you, Doug?
These days, in the past probably year or two, I've been diving right off the beach in New Jersey. Yeah, which is another obstacle that's pretty significant for me.
And what about the local blokes? Are Is there any sort of like offshore boat diving? Does the visibility sort of get better, or what are guys doing? Or...
It doesn't really get much better. I've gone I've gone on a few trips that are just slightly offshore where there's some structure and some rock piles and some artificial reefs, but um, it really doesn't. But I have to say that occasionally in the summertime, we get a mix of some warm water that comes in and some clear water that stays around for a while. And when that happens, it's really neat. It's like swimming in an aquarium out here, but that happens very rarely. So I take advantage of it whenever it does.
Okay, so what are some of the common fish species you do encounter when you do get some good water off New Jersey?
All right, so predominant, and this kind of is Rhode Island, from Rhode Island all the way down to New Jersey. Um, our biggest species to really hunt around here is a striped bass.
Okay.
And they get anywhere from, a keeper size striped bass is probably close to 20 pounds.
Okay.
And I don't know how that translates to kilos, but
it's about 8 kg. Yeah.
And a really good size. Like my best striped bass that I've shot is probably around 35 pounds, and my goal is to get something in the 40-pound range this year. So cool. and they're running right now. This is the time of year right now in late April, early May, when the big striped bass come in to do their initial spawning. So
are they coming in from offshore waters, or is it something they move up and down the coast? The striped bass?
They're fish that they come up actually into freshwater. So they come up into like the rivers and the bay systems from the ocean, and they do their spawn, and they can live in brackish and fresh waters, and then they come back out through the estuaries into the ocean. And that's kind of where I live. I live right in the in-between area. I live right on a river that flows into the ocean.
Nice.
So yeah, they really inhabit all the waters around this area, and they're you could catch them fly fishing or in the really shallow water, and you can catch good sized fish as they come up the rivers, and then you could go out into the deep ocean and jig and fish for them that way. So they're pretty versatile that way. Another fish that we can spearfish for food is a fluke or a summer flounder.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have those there.
Yeah, we have something similar. We're aware of what a flounder is. Yep.
Yep. And then there's a blackfish. It's called blackfish or tautog. It's also another name for it.
Okay.
And it's very interesting when you talk to people in different parts of the world, the different species of fish that are available in their particular area. So I don't even, before I went to Rhode Island, I wasn't really familiar too much at all with the blackfish, but it's a very common and very tasty fish in this area here.
So you sort of listed a couple of species there. What would be your most sort of memorable fish that you speared, and for whatever reason?
Yeah, I was mentioning the striped bass and a couple of the nice big ones that I've speared in the past. Actually, got some decent ones in the 20-pound range in New Jersey, but the larger fish that I've shot were up in Rhode Island. So those are a couple of my memorable fish. And also, I shot a really nice fluke, and a fluke that anything over 8 pounds is pretty much a trophy-sized fluke, and they're few and far between. And I was diving one day, and I was underwater on the bottom, and I just saw something that looked, these are bottom fish, and they camouflage themselves pretty well. So they're not just swimming freely. I saw something that just looked like seaweed or a little garbage pile, and I could just barely pick out that there was a head peeking out one side and a tail peeking out the other side. And I just shot my spear right in the middle, and I came up with one of the biggest fluke that I've ever shot. So nice. That was pretty memorable there.
In terms of eating quality, is that your premier eating fish?
Yeah, the striped bass is a very good eating fish. It's nice white flesh, and similar to a snapper. I'm sure you guys get similar type fish there. It's not too oily, so you can cook it a whole different variety of ways. It really lends itself well to baking, broiling, frying. It's pretty versatile as far as what you're able to do with cooking it. So it's a good fish, and I really like, all three that I mentioned, the blackfish and the fluke, are all very good eating fish.
And
but it's
that's one of your Sorry, Doug. That's one of your other specialties, isn't it? Something that's close to my heart. That's eating and cooking.
Yes, it is.
uh, so you've done a fair bit of cooking with different fish species.
I have, I really get into that too, and sometimes I like to take pictures of the food that I create from the catches that I make, and yeah, that's another little hobby or passion of mine as well.
Yeah, and like I remember starting out, there's nothing quite like eating what you catch, and I think that's a big appeal of our sport and any sort of hunting sport. It's eating what you catch and creating a meal for your family based on what you've caught that day. What sort of things did you start cooking when you started shooting fish?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that subject up. It reminds me of the fact that one of the things that really got me into spearfishing in the first place was the fact that I was predominantly a rod and reel fisherman, and when I lived in Rhode Island, I can remember going out time after time after time and not ever catching anything. I just felt like I wasn't that good. I wasn't doing it right, or I wasn't doing the right things, but I knew there were fish there because other people were coming up with fish. And it wasn't now went into the water and saw the environment that the fish lived in. It made me a better fisherman too, because you could see the structures and you could see that, yeah, most of these fish are holding to the bottom or the just the 5 feet from the bottom. That's where they're hanging. And I was probably fishing above all of these fish all the years that I was trying. And
Oh, okay.
you know, I don't. Are you guys rod and reel fishermen at all?
Oh, look, I think everyone's had a go at it, Doug. But no, I was probably
Seriously,
one of the worst line fishermen
I
ever.
hate it. I hate it. Oh, seriously, you go there, you're sitting on the
Yeah,
bank,
because
you spend all
right,
this
it could be
money on
boring.
fancy gear, and you get sunburnt, and it's boring, and you're tying knots for everybody. Nah, never again.
You
Right.
just
So, I kind of had the same feel of it. I mean, I really loved it, but I just wasn't successful.
Hmm.
But I got a lot more successful rod and reel fishing just after being a spear fisherman for a few years because I could see where the fish were. You kind of get a feel for where they're hanging out and the structure and just
Yeah.
the environment in which they live.
Oh, so
Makes a big difference.
you still take to the rod and reel occasionally?
I do, and
Okay.
that mainly because of the
Con-
visibility that's here and the conditions that I have. I really don't have much of a choice most of the time. So
yeah.
when I can't jump in the water, I'm fishing with my rod and reel.
Cool.
I won't hold that against you.
So, next part of the story, Doug, we love to hear our guests' scariest sort of moments out spearfishing. What was your scariest moment, and what did you take away from it?
Yeah, I was spear fishing with a kind of a new friend that I met recently. Not recently now, but when I was in Rhode Island, I was introduced to this fellow, and he was an excellent spear fisherman. He could go to depths that I couldn't get to, and he could hold his breath a lot longer. And we went out on his boat, and it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough seas when we were out there. Probably 4 foot seas, and I usually like to go when the conditions are just right for spear fishing,
Oh,
pretty flat. But
me
we
too,
were
buddy.
kind of I don't really like to push the limits when it comes to rough, but this guy was a little bit more advanced, and I was just kind of following along. And we went out there, we anchored up his boat in the ocean, and it was really kind of bobbing up and down pretty good. And we got into the water, and the currents were flowing back and forth, and it wasn't feeling that comfortable. I was starting to actually get a little seasick.
Mm-hmm.
So I dove to the bottom, maybe about 30 feet down. I came back up with the intention of just getting back in the boat and hanging out. But as I was coming back up, I was kind of disoriented. Didn't know exactly where I was. Um, as I got to the surface, the boat was right above me, directly above my head, and I came up, and the boat slammed right into my head. And if you can imagine how that must have been with it bobbing up and down. I mean, that was a moment where I wasn't sure whether I was going to come out of it. So it was just a kind of a situation where the conditions kind of dictated the fact that I probably shouldn't have been out there to begin with. But this incident, I mean, slammed me right in the head, and I felt like,
Oh,
I don't know, almost as if I was going to pass out. And I just knew at that moment that if I didn't stay conscious and go swim to the boat and get to where I needed to go, I wasn't going to be coming back from this. So it was quite scary, and left a pretty good mark for me just to remember that knowing knowing your sea conditions and where your comfort level is very important, especially for someone new getting into the sport.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great takeaway. I think Barnacle Bob's here.
Arr! It's time to open the Veterans Vault.
So the Veterans Vault, where we like to ask our guests to take us deep into an area of expertise or something they're passionate about and speak with our audience about. So today, Doug, we talked earlier, you wanted to talk about overcoming some of the common sort of Noob Spearo issues that people encounter. And so you mentioned relaxing your body and getting comfortable in the water and learning some conditions. So I guess I'll just ask you to tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit earlier about the first wetsuit that I had, and how it was a tight suit. It was almost like a surfer's wetsuit. I think it was made by a company named Henderson, and it was a starting scuba diving wetsuit, and it was kind of tight and confining, and you really when it was on, you really couldn't take a good deep breath and feel comfortable.
Yep.
And after I moved away from that particular suit, I went and did a little research into the freediving community, where they make such customized suits that are very stretchy and almost like taking a t-shirt on and off. I mean, it sounds like you guys don't need much of a suit up where you are with the water temperatures, but we need pretty thick suits here, and to have something that's breathable, as far as stretching when you're just taking a nice deep breath and being able to relax in the water is so important.
If you can't do yoga on the rocks before you get in, it's just not worth buying, eh?
I didn't hear that.
He's saying, like, if you can't do yoga in your suit, it's probably not well suited for spearfishing.
Yeah.
So you do need that flexibility.
Yeah, and that's something I only learned when I started taking some more interest in freediving.
Yeah.
Because you could see the people that were in that community really took it to heart, the type of suit that they wore. And same goes for spearfishing, when you're taking a big breath and just trying to lay on the surface and relax your body and slow down your heart rate. Those are things that somebody new into the sport is just not going to know until they develop that from experience. When you're new into the sport, you're very gung-ho about jumping in the water, and I want to go catch my first fish or shoot my first fish, and you want to get to this fish as quickly as possible, and you have kind of an excitement towards going.
Yeah.
But from my experience and from what I was taught, having slow your heart rate down and being as relaxed as possible, these are things that can really make your comfort level go up. And when you're very comfortable in the water, you're going to have a much longer breath hold.
Yeah.
So if you're just bobbing up and down and not getting much of a breath, not getting much of a bottom time, you're not going to reach the depths that some of the fish are that you really can go after.
Yeah, it's so tempting too when you start. You want to go down, you see something, you shoot straight back up. You cannot wait to get back down there again, so you shoot straight back down. And if you just spend that 2 minutes on the surface, your bottom time goes through the roof.
It makes a huge difference.
I did a bit of a freediving course on the weekend with a guy on the Gold Coast, a friend of mine, Eamon Abdin, and I was just doing the pool classes with him. And I've been spearfishing for a few years, but it caused a big reminder for me about relaxation and breathing. And he pulled me up about heaps of bad habits that I've got into over the years. So it was really good, and it just reinforced some of that lessons to me, because you can just get a bit excited, and hyperventilation is another big issue for guys starting out, because it is such an exciting sport.
It is. When you know that there's fish underneath you, when you're finally searching around and you find those fish, and you can almost see them from the surface, you just want to go right back down, like you said. But taking that couple minutes extra time can make a big difference. I took a free diving class last year just to try to extend my depth so that I could go. I went beyond the depths that I thought I could ever go just taking the class, and I've been diving and spearfishing for almost 10 years, and just taking a course with someone who is just that much more knowledgeable than me in free diving, it made me a better spearfisherman and safer.
Is there any particular school or club you want to plug at this stage that you sort of got a lot of value out of?
Let me see. I think I'm trying to remember the name of the.
I can't remember the name, Levi. He just did a couple of fillings for the guy, and then he went. Is that right, Doug?
Right. I don't buy any of my equipment. I just look for people who need fillings and wisdom teeth.
Yeah.
Actually, in my area, there's a website called NYC, like New York City,
Yep.
and freedivenyc.com. It's a really great resource, to get some high quality training from certified free divers. And these people aren't necessarily spear fishermen, but they they run classes periodically for just to teach you how to hold your breath longer and get deeper. And they take you to these man-made quarries that are very controlled freshwater areas that are very deep. I mean, spots that are 100 feet deep down, and they just teach you some of the skills you need to get to the depths that you never thought you could get to.
That sounds really good.
Awesome,
Yeah. All right, Doug. Well, something else you mentioned in your Veterans Vault was perhaps learning conditions, tide, wind, and current. And before the show, you mentioned a story about your boat coming off anchor. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, just another experience that I had that it wasn't the most pleasant experience. And whenever new spear fishermen hear the stories of other people, I think that's a good learning experience right there. I went. It was just two of us, so I went with another friend of mine. And I always try to recommend, if you're going on a boat, to go with at least three people, so that you can have one guy in the boat and two guys in the water, and then just do some type of rotation.
Yep.
That way you don't have to anchor up at all. I mean, I don't know. Are you guys boat spear fishermen?
Yeah.
And you do
Well, actually, Doug, Shrek knows a lot about boating.
Oh,
I mean,
here we
a lot.
go.
He's never actually owned a boat, but the other day I was at his house and I used his
That's the
facilities.
best kind of friends to have, right, Shrek? The ones that own. You don't own the boat. You use other
That's
people's
right.
boats.
You're
right?
on to me, Doug.
But every time we go out in the boat, Doug, he's got some little piece of wisdom about boating, and I was thinking the guy's never actually owned a boat. So the other day when I was at his house and I was using his toilet, which I often do, he was. I had a look there, and here's a how to go boating book published 1972,
Circa.
circa 1972, and it's well worn. So I'd say all that sort of knowledge you can get out of that book. Do you want to give that book a plug?
$1.50 I got that
$1.50.
for.
Good buy.
And look, it's not just power boats. It went right into sailboats and everything. And a fore and aft and port and starboard, I'm pretty good.
So if you've actually got any questions, Doug, he's a real expert.
I do come across a bit like that sometimes, Doug. I will put my hand up there. But no, you're right. Running a boatie, we find is crucial over here. A lot of the time we're diving in current, so it's not an option to do otherwise. You can't actually even anchor up if you wanted to. And it's crucial to have to learn your boating skills as well if you're going to go out, because you do need to have a turn, and because if there's three guys on the boat, two guys don't want to be boaty all day. Everyone's got to sort of share in that responsibility. So yeah.
And I think that's a good rotation, because you do get tired after a while of bobbing up and down and diving, and it's actually a good break to take in the boat. You'll catch your breath, and you just keep a watch out for the other two guys. But in this particular situation, there were just two of us that went out, and we anchored up our boat, and we started diving along these cliffs and rock piles, and it was a really good structure. It looked like a great day, and all of a sudden, probably maybe 15 minutes into the dive, I looked back to. I always try to, when I am diving with an anchored boat, I feel like I'm constantly looking at the boat just as a reference point, just to see how far I am away. It kind of gives you an idea of which way the currents are going, and that's one thing when you do anchor up. As soon as the anchor catches, your boat's going in the direction that the current's running too. So one thing that I always recommend to people is to, when you start, swim right into that current, so that you don't just get swept away by the current and then have to fight and swim back the other direction. But in this particular case, it was pretty open water, and I looked up and my boat was probably 100 yards further than I had anchored it. And it just got me a little bit worried. And as I'm watching more and more, the boat's just starting to go further and further away into this deep water channel. So I knew my anchor wasn't holding. And then I'm faced with the fact that my boat's floating away probably faster than I can swim after it. And what do you do then? You just it was a day ruiner. Let's put it that way. Just because either your anchor doesn't hold, or you're not paying close enough attention to what's going on, because you want to jump in and get in the water.
Yeah. Yep.
And how did you get that boat back?
Well, I had to drop my weights,
Wow.
which, obviously make you swim a little bit better. So I actually tied it. I use a float line with a spear gun and weights. So I tied everything together so that my float was actually holding onto my weight so I could pull them back up. So I dropped everything and left it there, and I just started just started swimming. And there's no other no.
You just legged it for the boat, we call it over here.
Yeah, exactly. I was with a friend of mine who was not a great friend. It was just kind of an acquaintance of mine, and he didn't even really know what was going on because he was a little bit further away from me, and I had to take off for the boat before I could even tell him what I was doing. But I just took off for it because I knew it was going to take me forever to get to it anyway.
Wow.
And it was just a situation where when it's your boat, you're the one that cares the most about it.
Oh,
The other
yeah.
guy, he just spent his time during that time free diving and spearfishing, and I did all the legwork and went and got the boat, and eventually I did catch it, but it wasn't a pleasant day, and you can think about how exhausted you might be after something like that, and then then having to relax your body and everything else that we were talking about to try to spearfish, and it just ended the day right there before it even began.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience too, and it's not much fun. So now I always make sure Shrek's a boatie, and he's pretty much happy to go boatie as long as there's like 3 or 4 packets of Doritos that he can sort of shovel into his face.
That's corn chips, Doug. He's a really good co-host. So, hey, look, Doug, what's the funniest thing you've seen out spearfishing? Obviously, me eating corn chips is it for Turbo, but what's one of the funniest stories you have out spearfishing?
Funniest, I don't know. I can't really recall anything particularly that funny. It's always nice to share the time on the water with other friends that you're going out with. You guys sound like you're a good pair that jive together pretty well, and that's one thing that I have a hard time finding here in New Jersey is a good network of people to kind of go out with and getting group. So the buddy system is critical when you're out there free diving or spearfishing or doing anything that's potentially dangerous like this, and having a good network of friends that are kind of on the same skill level as you are is important.
That's a great point, Doug. You didn't have a funny story, but you had a great point there, and I place a high premium on my diving friends, and
Thanks, buddy.
because you can go out and you don't have to shoot any fish. You just have a laugh with your mates, and you relax when you're with the right people, and you're in the right you're in the right mindset. It's not a competition, and because at the end of the day, it's just spearfishing.
I got to say, Doug, it sounds like the conditions you're in over there, they don't sound like they're that fun. Like, I mean, it's dirty, it's cold, it's rough. I guess a lot of that's keeping a lot of people out of the water.
Yeah, but you see more and more people getting into it. It surprises me sometimes when I go out and I see some of the people that that are jumping in the water and coming from pretty far away to do it too. I mean, I live 5 minutes from where I can jump in the water and go off the beach and go spearfishing. And if my day's blown out because of visibility, if I jump in the water and I can't even see my hand sometimes in front of my face, then I can pack it in and I'll be home in 5 minutes. But I see some people that drive 45 minutes, sometimes an hour to get to the ocean, and they're faced with the same conditions I am. So
that's crazy.
Little by little, there are more and more people that are really getting into it. And I always tell people, if you can dive in New Jersey, then you can pretty much dive anywhere. So if you get used to the the currents and the visibility and the situation here, when you do go away to a different place, you really, number one, appreciate where you're going, but you have some skills that maybe some other people don't have.
And when you do go away and you sort of hit that clean water in those tropics, do you find that your depth and bottom time and the way you dive just improves out of sight?
Yeah, it does. When you can see the bottom. I mean, when I can see the bottom, and even if it's 40, 50 feet down, I don't know what depth you got. What depth are you guys used to going? What's your
mate, it's out of control these days.
Some days when we haven't been out for a while, to be honest, Doug. Next time I go out, I'll be diving. I'll be struggling in 40, 50 feet probably, which is. But sometimes when we are out in the water all the time, and we're getting more experience, we do push some depth sometimes. Not like some of the other guys around, but we'll be out 80 feet,
fairly average.
80 feet sometimes.
Yeah.
But So and occasionally we can go a bit deeper, but it depends on fitness, time of the year, being comfortable and all the rest of it. We don't like to get into egotism with depths because sometimes we're good and other times we're not. And
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't need it sometimes. Sometimes you just need to go where the fish are. You know, you were asking about a funny story earlier, and we were talking about visibility. Something, I don't know if it's funny, more scary than funny, but I was diving at night in Rhode Island one time. We did some lobster diving, and we would dive down with an underwater flashlight and go searching for lobsters at nighttime, which is, what do you call them, lobsters there, or bugs? What do you call the
crayfish
lobsters?
and bugs. Yeah, we have bugs and
Right,
crayfish. Yeah.
right. So we were doing that, and it was one of those days that we didn't have much visibility at all, even with the light. And I went to a spot where I dove down maybe about 25 feet, and I couldn't see the bottom until I was probably like maybe a foot from the bottom. You couldn't even see it.
Yeah, I know that one.
So
I know that sort of story.
I'm going down expecting to see the bottom, and all of a sudden I go down into an area, and the visibility opens up about a foot or 2 feet from the bottom, and it's loaded with these spider crabs, which I don't know. Do you know what spider crabs are?
No.
They're like they're similar to like what a king crab looks like, but on a smaller scale. But they're really ugly looking, and they're just really long, dark brown legs.
Yeah.
And they're not dangerous at all. They're not gonna harm you, but just when you don't expect it and you drop down, your head's like with 2 inches away from about 10 spider crabs. It's just very startling experience. Let's put it that way.
Especially at night.
Like Turbo watching Arachnophobia.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's like all of a sudden you're afraid of spiders or crabs. It's because you're right in their environment.
Mate, you say you're going out at night. Do you have sharks? What's the shark story there?
I've never really been affected by. I have never really seen too many sharks where I go.
My motto is, if you can't see them, they're not there.
Yeah, you kind of have to keep that motto in the back of your mind while you're spearfishing. Everywhere you go, there are potential shark issues, and I mentioned a little bit of that in the book that I wrote for new spearfishermen, because it's a little paranoia in the back of your mind that there might be something that's just following you there while you're sitting there relaxing on the surface.
You're right, Doug. It's a big issue for people that don't know much about the sport. That's the first thing you get asked when people find out you're a spearfisherman. So, we'll talk about a bit about your book later on. But I think Pedro, what time is it, Pedro?
See, it's time for Noob Spearo's Fast 5 Facts. Ay.
Fast 5 Facts for Noob, Doug, is where we ask our guests to offer 5 bits of advice to our audience that they would have liked to have had starting out.
Oh, that's a good subject to bring up. Okay, starting out, what I may have done differently. I mentioned a few things already. Maybe get the most comfortable wetsuit that you can get.
Okay.
Learning how to equalize, I think, is very important for someone that's starting out. And to do that, maybe taking some type of a class with an instructor. Getting a mentor, getting someone who can show you the ropes and tell you what you are supposed to be doing, rather than just jumping in and trying on your own. Even if you do read a book or some information periodical that explains it, there's nothing like the firsthand experience of someone who's actually doing it.
3 there, Doug.
Okay.
Couple more.
I would say the conditions that you decide to go may dictate. That may tell you how your experience level may be dictated by the conditions that you may go. If you're someone new just starting out, you probably want to just go when the conditions are perfect, like flat calm seas is best visibility you can find, and not really pushing your boundaries there. So you want to try to start off when it's the easiest conditions to start off.
Okay.
Let's see, one more. Well, nothing really comes to mind right now, but
just to expand on your point 4, which is about conditional awareness and experience levels. How did you kind of learn about conditions? Is it something you write about in your book? Where could new spearfishermen go to learn more about conditions in their area and things like that?
I think every area that you go, the structures that are there, the environment where the fish are is going to be a little bit different too. So you just have to, it just comes from experience, I think, just by going and just trying new things and going to new areas, exploring a bit. I mean, I think all of us as spear fishermen have that explorer within us. I mean, it's such a different environment when you jump in the water and you start looking at the structures and the things that are under there. Sometimes I'm so surprised on what I see in the different depths that I go. So surprised at what you see under there that you just never knew was there in the first place. So those are things that you can only gain from experience and by going over and over and over again. And as you do that more and more, when you get more comfortable in an environment, you get to explore with more confidence too. You spend more time with your breath hold in a spot that you become familiar with.
Cool. Okay, perfect. All right, just to read those back, Doug, that was really good. So we've got for your conditions up there in the cold water, you're saying get a comfortable wetsuit, number one. Number two, equalise, and if you need to, go and do a course so that you can learn how to dive properly. Number three, get a mentor, get some books, study, read. Number four, dive to the conditions and make sure you dive to your conditions as well. Number five, explore new ground and try new things, experiment with it.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. Those are some good tips. I think anybody that's starting off that's new can really benefit from doing that. And anybody that is starting off new is going to want to learn and explore and find all these things out on their own, but helps to have that mentor.
Cool, thanks, Doug. Next section, crucial kit for noobs. So what piece of equipment is essential? And we don't mind if you mention a few brands here, what you recommend, particularly for your area, if you like, Doug.
Well, I have found this dive watch that I have been using for many years. It's called the Sun2 D3, and I'm sure they have a D4 or D5 or whatever. Do you guys have the brand Sun2 down there?
Yeah,
Sunto,
we call it Sunto here, but anyway, no, I've heard good things about those watches.
Yeah, so I find that very helpful. In the beginning, when I first started out, it was kind of a luxury. It was something that I couldn't really afford because it was in the range of maybe $300 at the time, and I just kind of bypassed it because I couldn't afford it. But when I eventually did, I found that I couldn't even go without it anymore because this was something that was giving me the information that I needed to really help my spearfishing along. It gave me the depth that I was diving. It showed me right on the screen how long my bottom time was. I mean, I didn't have to touch any buttons when it went into free dive mode. It just automatically happened, and when I come up to the surface, it starts a countdown or starts a timer to tell you how much your surface interval is, and that's another valuable thing just to have, because if you're just guessing that you're at the surface for 2 minutes but you're not really there, when you're excited and you want to go right back down, you're very anticipating going down a lot sooner than that 2 minutes or 3 minutes that you want to be waiting at the surface. And just having the watch there gives you the peace of mind that you're on the right time.
No, that's a good bit of kit, Doug. It's something we probably want to invest in as a crew for Levi, because quite often he comes back to the boat with these bold claims, and really he's sitting in mid-water, and and he's saying there's nothing here, but he can't even get near the bottom. We're only in 30 feet. So look, but you have these dive buddies. At least they provide good jokes. So
it's true.
Seriously, Doug, I'm hitting depths that you couldn't even dream of. It's incredible on just a day-to-day basis. It's amazing. Anyway,
so
without a dive computer or a dive watch, you don't know the depth. You could be going down 50 feet and you could think you're going down 80 feet. You just don't know until you're actually measuring it with the watch. So that helps too.
I'm pretty in tune with my body though, Doug. So I'll probably am pulling 80 feet. You're probably right.
Yeah, he's pulling 80 feet in the bathtub, I think, Doug. But, hey...
Get that swimming pool. It's tough to find an 80-foot swimming pool to do that type of practice in, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, just to talk a bit about your book, Doug. So where did you write that? How did you kind of research the book you've written on how to get started spearfishing, and how long did you spend writing it? what can people expect when they open up your book?
Well, this is something that I probably started many years ago and then kind of put it down and then picked it back up again. But um, when I was being taught how to spearfish by this guy I mentioned before, his name was Mike. He taught me the things that I know, and then we kind of parted ways, and I started gathering some friends, just a network of buddies to go spearfishing with. But these were guys that hadn't taken the scuba certification course. So I was just kind of imparting all of the wisdom and knowledge that I have been accumulating for the sport to my friends. And I found that over and over again, I was teaching people from the very beginning how to equalize, how to get down, what equipment to buy, all the stuff that we're talking about, all the startup equipment, where do you buy this and that, and what are the essentials that you need to get started. I felt like I was doing that over and over and over again whenever I had somebody new coming along with me or showing them for the first time. And someone just mentioned, man, you should write a book about this. And this was just something that I realized was a good resource.
Yeah.
Good resource for new people getting into it, because it's a sport that it's not widely known, and there's always new people getting into it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really write the book to make a lot of money or to sell many copies of it. I just wrote it to get the information that I had in me out into the public about spearfishing in the environment that I'm in and some of the fish species that you can catch where I am. So that's kind of all included in that book as well. But it just was something that I, again, had started many years ago, and I had just gradually picked it up and wrote a few more parts to it, and until it was done just about a year and a half ago, I finished it and published it on Amazon.
Cool.
And it's actually selling pretty well for me too. I mean, it surprised me how popular it was when it started to be a worldwide presence on Amazon. That's probably how you guys had seen it all the way in Australia, right?
Yeah. So, well, I am a bit of an Amazon. I'm a bit of a reader, Doug. So I did come across your book when I had a look at some spearfishing books that were out there, and so I guess what my next question would be: who is the book perfect for? Is it fairly geographically bound? Is it suitable for a North American audience? Is it suitable for someone who's brand new to the sport? Who would you say the book's for?
I think that would be who it's for. Someone who's brand new to the sport. It is called Spearfishing and How to Get Started. So it covers a lot of those basics. The only reference that I really have for my spearfishing skills is the northeast coast of the United States here. So I don't really have a lot of experience in open blue water hunting or other areas like where you guys are in clear water down in the tropics, things like that. I don't have personal experience with that, but I just know from where I am, it describes some of the skill sets that we had been talking about relaxing and being patient and getting good breaths and safety issues. Really stressed a lot of safety issues there that a lot of people new to spearfishing don't realize some of the really potential harmful things that could happen underwater. When you're, again, gung-ho and wanting to get in and get wet, you really don't take into consideration the potential dangers that are there. And I'm not talking about sharks. I'm talking about the potential for blackouts or the potential for any and all problems that are there if you don't go with a buddy or someone that's there to watch your back.
Okay, cool. So where can people find that book, Doug?
Well, it sells on Amazon, so there's a hard copy version, and then there's a Kindle electronic ebook version too. So not too expensive, but if you're out there and you're new to the sport and you want to just kind of get in, see, it's got a few stories and anecdotes of some of the experiences I've had spearfishing. Talks about all the different type of fish that you can get off of the New Jersey coast, and it's not that many, but there's enough that are there for the person that's in my area to explore.
Okay, cool. So they know where to get your book. You've also got a Facebook page. What's your Facebook page called? We'll link these things up in the show notes, but where can people search on Facebook?
I think it's probably just listed on Facebook under Spearfishing, How to Get Started. It's just a Facebook page on that's just a reference to the book. And I don't have, like I said before, I don't have pictures in my book, but I put the pictures on the Facebook page when I gather them.
Cool. No worries. And people can ask you questions on there?
Yeah, you can post anything you need on there. Yep.
Awesome.
Excellent. All right, Doug. Well, thanks so much for coming on the Noob Spearo podcast and having a chat with us. We've learned a lot about your diving conditions up there in the northeast corner. And just
I don't paint a very good picture, do I? I don't. It's not like someone's gonna jump on vacation and come to New Jersey for spearfishing, right?
Well, I'm not going to jump on a plane just yet. But I've only got a 3 mil wetsuit, so But just before we go, mate, I've got one more question. Is flossing more important than brushing?
That's a good one. They're equally important. Equally important.
Thank you. I'm going to take that back to my dentist and tell her she's wrong. Thanks for talking to us, Doug. It's been fantastic.
Man, thanks.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for making time for us, Doug. I know it's early in the morning over there, so we really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to our audience.
No problem. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate your time too, and I hope you. Is it a season right now where you guys can get in the water? Is it year round that you can spearfish up by you?
It's year round, buddy.
Yeah, we're sport. It is year round. But
yeah, maybe that's a trip that I have to put on my list. Then I got to come visit you guys.
There's always a room here for you, Doug. A couple of fillings, mate. We'll sort you right out.
I'll bring my pliers.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening today, Noob Spearo. If you'd like to find out any more information from today's guest, then head over to noobspearo.com.
We really appreciate you guys as listeners. Without you, we couldn't do the show. So if you want to help us out, leave us a review on iTunes or head on over to noobspearo.com and sign up for our newsletter. We won't send you crap.
So that's all from us. A big hooroo. We hope to see you soon.
Shrek over and out.